It's good to see some familiar faces since last year at the Community College Forum prior to Bio. I wanted to give you just a few minutes background on Targacept so you would have some context for thoughts I'd like to share just a little bit later. But we're a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company located in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and have worked closely with Russ at the NCBW for a while. But we're developing a novel class of drugs to treat diseases and disorders of the central nervous system. And Linnea had mentioned, or Russ had mentioned, that we were a spin-out from RJR Tobacco Company, which is a tale in and of itself. But early research into nicotine in the 80s showed that there were some therapeutic effects for molecules with nicotine-like pharmacology. And obviously, it's various receptor subtypes are involved, but essentially what that early research showed was that with nicotine-like pharmacology, there is increased attention, increased memory, decreased anxiety, and a reduced risk of developing Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So what happened in the late 90s was obviously the tobacco company was undergoing a lot of scrutiny, and they had said, we're going to just stop the research on nicotine for the therapeutic effects. And we just had, there was one of our founders, who's now our president and CEO, just would not give up. And what he had said was, do not lay off all the folks in this company, in this operating sub. We will find the money through funders, through investors, and because this is important. So in 1997, Targacept incorporated itself, became a wholly operating sub of RJR. During that period of time, I think the founders were given until midnight on December 31st to find funding. On December 30th, they reached an agreement with two global pharma companies and some investors to help us push this research forward. So in 2000, the company originally and formally spun out from RJR as an independent company. That was on August 22nd. In September, I had the fortune and privilege of joining this wonderful company. We're a global leader in neuronal nicotinic receptor therapeutic space. Globally, we have the highest number of patents in nicotine research. And then we have a deep pipeline of new chemical entities. If you're at all familiar with the company, we have one product candidate in phase 3 clinical development right now with AstraZeneca as adjunctive therapy for major depressive disorder. We have 4 candidates in phase 2 clinical trials, cognitive dysfunction and schizophrenia, ADHD, Alzheimer's. Then we have 2 more candidates in phase 1 for Alzheimer's and inflammatory disorders, and 2 in preclinical research working with GSK on Parkinson's, and then candidates for pain and smoking cessation. So our whole vision is really building health, restoring independence for patients. Because if you think about these CNS diseases and disorders, they're very debilitating. I want to take just a minute to give you a view of our demographics. When I joined the company, we had 22 employees. We are now at 130, and with the exception of 2009, when we had 2 early phase 2B clinical trial failures, we have added staff every year. So we're at 130 right now. We will be adding 20 more jobs this year. And, you know, it's been a great boost for the state of North Carolina, for Winston-Salem. And I want to talk in just a minute, but we do have 2 Forsyth Tech grads on staff as lab techs, who, one of which interned with us. We have 15 different countries of national origin within the company, so a highly diverse workforce. About 50% are MDs and or PhDs. For the 4th consecutive year last year, we were named one of the top 30 companies in industry as the best place to work for globally. And that was by the Scientist magazine, but most importantly, it's an anonymous survey that our staff completes online. So, it's not something I could pad and say we did all these great things. It specifically comes from staff. So pre-Targacept, in the early 80s, I had the privilege of working and developing several programs for our staff when I was at Westinghouse. Primarily a manufacturing company, working in stainless steel manufacturing. For SciTech was just a fantastic resource for getting our candidates the credentials that we expected them to have. When I came to Targacept, I never forgot what Forsyth Tech did for Westinghouse, and that was a corporate giant back then. In 2001, Gary Green brought a contingency out to visit Targacept. This is going to be one of my takeaways because clearly I don't know who your presidents are of your various academic institutions. But if they're not visionaries and they're not staying abreast of what's happening with life science growth, you need to mount an effort to help educate them and to give them some ideas on you should have early intervention with these companies. But Gary Green is a real visionary. He came and visited us in 2001. Remember, we were only a year old at that time. We really didn't even know where we were headed in terms of employment growth or skills and core competency needs and retention. But we worked with him, and he said, I have this vision, and I want to initiate a biotech program, associate's degree program at Biotech, and I need your help. Well, that's music to our ears, because we have just some fantastic scientists that we knew would be able to help develop a curriculum where those people would be instant-on talent for us. And then Gary he gets it. He said, I really need somebody who can help us understand what the soft skills are that you're going to be looking for with our graduates. And so having that early intervention, we were able, and you're scratching your head saying, okay, we have a lot to do, we tend to run lean, that's what biotech is, it's agile, it runs lean, you have to be able to turn on a dime. How are we going to provide some staff to help build this curriculum? I think it's a real testament to the workforce. We have folks who said, I'll volunteer my off time to do this. And so in 2 years, that program was up and running. We have a very prolific summer internship program. In the summer of 2003, we had our first Forsyth Tech Community College summer interns working as lab techs. Coming off that first year, we had an opening for a lab tech and snatched up one of those females who was just extraordinary, and she's with us still. We have a lab tech career ladder, and she has steadily progressed up that ladder. We also have worked with the North Carolina Biotechnology Center on postdoc research fellows, and I've had the fortune of having one of those with us as well. But our pride and joy continues to be our summer internship program. Since 2002, we've had 62 interns spend time with us in the summer. And these guys and gals are working on real research. They're not photocopying. They are not just pipetting. They have a project. The internship internal to Targacept doesn't even get approved unless there is value-added work to it, and a reciprocity in terms of the student knowledge as well. We started out with just 2 local institutions, Salem College, primarily, typically a female-represented college, Winston State University, generally speaking, a minority-focused college. And we chose those 2 because we said women and minorities are typically underrepresented in the life sciences industries. From that, it has grown. Forsyth Tech was the one that came on the next year, and we probably have about 15 different academic institutions supplying us with interns every year. One thing that I did want to mention, and it's been mentioned a couple of times today, when we met early on with Gary and his team on the softer skills, these are things that are near and dear to my heart as the head of human resources for our company. But we characterize them as the 3 C's. And if people don't have the 3 C's coming into the company, it will probably be a hard road ahead for them. But the first one is communications. If you are not able to articulate your thoughts, if you're not inclined to bring others into conversations and place a value on face-to-face communications and share information, it probably would not be a good fit. The second one is collaboration. And what we found early on is that many of the staff who joined the company early on had never worked in industry before. Most were from academia and research, academic research. And it was quite an effort to try to get them to understand that, yes, you're the chemist who discovered this new chemical entity, but there's going to be a biologist or a neurochemist who's going to make the poster presentation on your new chemical entity. And there was just such an unwillingness to share information. So collaboration, getting them to understand what the drug discovery and development process is all about, and that you're going to have to work out differences among yourselves. Management is not going to solve your problems for you. So be professional, understand giving and taking of constructive feedback, and then collaborate. And then the third thing that's been mentioned by several of you today is the whole notion of critical thinking. You know, it's not just critical thinking from a scientific basis either. It's if you have this problem or concern or issue within a team, you need to be able to anticipate, identify what your alternate paths to take are, understand what the implications are if you choose path A, B, and C, and then figure out which is the best one to take for everyone involved. That is just a basic core tenet when we're recruiting. We expect, and we've trained our managers, you know, let your scientific experts identify the people who are technically qualified, but you need to determine who's going to fit within the culture, who's going to meet the 3 C's, and we teach them in behavioral-based interviewing techniques. So if I had just some takeaway thoughts, one would be sure to engage the leaders of your local life science companies. If you're not sure who they are, your chamber can tell you who those emerging companies are. But get involved with them early, get their attention early. Let them know that you have something that is going to help return value to their efforts. The second one I just talked about, please be sure that soft skills are an integral part of your curriculum. Be knowledgeable. And it's good to see most of those documents are gone from the table, but be knowledgeable and proactive when you're looking at life sciences trends, survey instrument outcomes, any stats that are going on locally, nationally. There is just a wealth of information out there where many industries have been interviewed about where do you see yourself in the next year, the next 3, 5, 10. You know, get ahead of those feedback. And then follow your student outcomes. Russ just mentioned this when he was talking. Knowing what the feedback and the success of your grads are is essential. They can be your biggest champions and your strongest advocates. And then the last thing I'll say, and it's something our president, the CEO, tells every one of us in every employee meeting: tell success stories.